Have you ever caught yourself obsessing over someone else's choices? Maybe a friend who's constantly late, or a coworker who never pulls their weight? Mel Robbins calls this tendency out in her book The Let Them Theory, and her solution is surprisingly simple. Just let them. That's right, let them. It's a mantra that sounds almost too easy, but here's the setup. We spend so much energy trying to manage other people's behavior that we forget to manage our own. The conflict? All that control is a losing game. You can't mind control your boss into being more supportive, or your partner into texting back faster. Now, you might be thinking, but if I let people act however they want, won't everything fall apart? It's a fair question, and Robbins addresses it head-on. She shares a story about her own daughter telling her to stop meddling in her son's prom plans, just let them figure it out. It was a wake-up call that letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means letting people be responsible for themselves. Here's where the technical stuff comes in. Robbins frames this with two core ideas: self-regulation, which is how we manage our own emotions, and emotional boundaries, which are invisible lines that protect our mental well-being. Imagine boundaries like an invisible fence knot to keep others out, but to keep your peace in. Let me tell you a story. I used to twist myself in knots trying to prevent family drama at every holiday dinner. When I started saying, let them argue, let them vent, I found a kind of freedom I didn't know existed. I could finally enjoy my own meal and my own mood. The takeaway? Letting them isn't letting yourself down, it's choosing yourself. And that's the foundation of Robbins' theory. Why does letting go matter so much? Robbins argues that our obsession with controlling others is an emotional energy vampire race. I'm talking about chronic stress and mental burnout. Here's the setup. Every moment you spend trying to fix your friend's bad relationship or your colleague's work habits is a moment you're not investing in your own growth. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but isn't caring about people a good thing? Absolutely, but there's a difference between caring and controlling. Robbins draws from psychology, referencing the concept of emotional labor, unpaid, often invisible effort we put into managing emotions, both ours and others. It's like running background apps on your phone. It drains your battery even if you're not using them directly. So what's the conflict? Our brains are wired for something called cognitive load, the amount of mental effort we can handle at once. When we overload on other people's problems, our stress hormones like cortisol skyrocket. Robbins points out that this leads to anxiety, resentment, and even physical symptoms like headaches. Here's a hypothetical. Imagine spending your mental energy on your own goals, learning a new skill, planning that trip, or just enjoying your evening. Doesn't that sound lighter? Robbins encourages us to reclaim that bandwidth by letting go of what we can't control. The resolution? Letting them reduces your stress, boosts your focus, and gives you the freedom to channel your energy where it matters most. Your own life. Alright, let's get practical. How do you actually let them in real life, especially when emotions run high? Robbins delivers a toolkit loaded with actionable strategies. And here's the setup. Boundaries aren't just rules for other people, they're commitments to yourself. Think of boundaries as your phone's do not disturb mode. It's not about shutting people out, it's about protecting your peace. The conflict? Most of us feel guilty for setting boundaries, especially with family or close friends. Robbins offers a game changer. Practice saying no without adding a 10-minute explanation. She calls this self-validation, reminding yourself that your needs are legitimate, even if others don't agree. Here's a technical concept: cognitive reframing. That's just a fancy way of saying you can change the way you interpret a situation. Instead of seeing someone's criticism as an attack, try viewing it as a reflection of their own issues, not yours. Robbins suggests journaling prompts to help you spot where you're picking up other people's baggage. Picture this. Next time your mom's upset about your weekend plans, repeat to yourself, let her. It's not cold, it's clarity. You're not rejecting her feelings, you're just refusing to make them your responsibility. The bottom line? Boundaries, self-talk, and mindset shifts are like emotional armor. They let you show up as your best self, no matter what chaos is swirling around you. Let's dig into the science behind why letting go actually works. Robbins draws from cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) for short in neuroscience to show how our brains react to stress and rumination. Here's the setup. When you replay other people's behavior over and over, you keep your brain in what's called a stress loop. The conflict? Getting stuck in that loop leads to chronic anxiety and can even affect your sleep. Robbins explains that emotional regulation, a technical term for managing intense feelings, breaks this cycle. It's like hitting the reset button in your brain. Now, some critics say Robbins could have cited her sources more rigorously, but her advice lines up with what therapists teach. Letting go is a skill you can practice. She shares real-life stories, like letting a friend exclude her from a vacation and deciding not to take it personally. Instead, she uses that energy to pursue her own passions. Now, you might be thinking, but what if the other person never changes? Robbins says, let them. The victory isn't in changing them, it's in changing your reaction. That's the true definition of empowerment. So, emotional regulation and stress loops, while they sound technical, they're really just about owning your peace of mind. And as Robbins shows, that's a superpower anyone can build. It wouldn't be fair to unpack the let them theory without touching on its critiques and real-world impact. Here's the setup. While the book sold millions and inspired countless readers, some folks argue it stretches a simple idea pretty far. There's also controversy. Robbins didn't credit Cassie Phillips' viral Let Them poem, even though it helped popularize the phrase. The conflict? Some readers feel the book could have gone deeper or been more original, and there's debate about whether Robbins gives enough nods to Stoicism and Buddhism, which echo similar themes. But here's the thing, the accessibility is what makes this book stand out. Robbins distills complex ideas into everyday language and actionable steps. She also packs in bonus content, a leadership guide for managers, and a parenting section with Dr. Stuart Ablon. These chapters apply let them to everything from team mistakes to letting your kids solve their own problems. It's practical and, for many, transformative. Let me ask you, when was the last time you let yourself be enough without needing someone else's approval? Robbins calls this self-compassion, giving yourself the validation you keep seeking from the outside world. So, while the let them theory isn't perfect, its message is resonating for a reason. If you try just one thing from the book, let it be this. Next time someone frustrates you, say let them and see how much lighter you feel.